This is it. The final days before a new era of Splatoon begins. And I can't wait. Splatoon 3 was announced all the way back in the February Nintendo Direct back in 2021. So it's been a long time coming since this game was first revealed, and now coming out in only a matter of days. Can you believe it? Of course, in my previous videos, I've always wrestled with the fact that September is not summer, as many of you agree with. But, I mean, if you take a step outside and you feel the 80s to 90s degree weather out there, I guess it still counts. So I'll let Nintendo slide just this one time, but don't do it again. To prepare for this momentous occasion, I've been playing Splatoon 2 non-stop, both on streams and in my own personal time. And, to add insult to injury, I even bought the new Splatoon 3 Special Edition of the Nintendo Switch OLED, which, by the way, I did an unboxing of it. You might want to check it out. It's pretty cool. But all of this to prepare myself, and I'm sure many of you are doing the same exact thing, for this new era that we're about to enter of Splatoon. This franchise has been around for, not even that many years, not even a decade at this point. And already we're experiencing something of a just finale, I would call it. I mentioned in my other videos too how Splatoon 3 will be the perfect closer to this trilogy of games so far. Now, does this mean that there won't be other Splatoon games coming out in the future? Probably not. But in this terms of these first three games, I think that the third one in its entirety is a great combination of the first one, the second one, and even some new added stuff in. I think Splatoon 3 will be a fantastic game, but there's more to it than that. So let's take a deep dive in super quick. And to top it off, I even took part in the Splatoon 3 World Premiere Splatfest that just happened this past weekend. I was on Team Scissors, rest in peace Team Scissors, we tried our best. We did it for Big Man, but I gotta say, regardless if we won or lost, I would have still had an amazing time playing the demo. I'm sure a lot of you did too. I remember I played on streams with a couple of you guys, a couple of my friends, a couple of the N10 guys even, played the demo, and that most of their opinions are changed by it too, which is surprising. But I'm glad that there was, by that point too, a lot of my other friends had different, changes of heart after playing that demo. And I think that's exactly what we needed as a Splatoon, franchise fan base in order to get more people on board with the idea of a new Splatoon on the Switch. I've seen so many video titles and, podcasts and discussions of people just saying, do we really need a third Splatoon game, and do we really need it on the Nintendo Switch? And this, World Premiere Splatfest demo basically just answered with a big yes, we do. And, there's so much more to it too that I really want to unpack in this video. And alright, enough of my rambles, let's just start. Why don't we just do that? Of course, before we get started, I would appreciate it if you left a like on this video and consider subscribing. I did forget to mention in my previous video that we passed 800 subscribers, so thank you guys so much for that. But with that being said, we gotta keep going to 1K. My goal, obviously, is to try to hit 1K by the end of the year, and so our next big milestone will be 900. So I think we can do it. Can I count on you? Sweet. Alright, now on to the video. Speaking of the demo itself, I gotta say, playing that for the first time, both on and off stream, just felt so good. Everything about it was just new and improved and, dare I say, fresh. One big aspect of that is the weapon and kit changes. A lot of the weapons and sub-weapons were mixed around this time around from Splatoon 2, which I think is a really good way to kind of change up the gameplay. A lot of people who I played with during the Splatfest, they were trying all sorts of weapons. Some people, went from, octo brushes to splat chargers to even dualies for the first time too. So that demo really gave everyone a different experience depending on which weapons they try, which I think is exactly what a demo should be, especially for a game like Splatoon. The specials, oh my gosh. The specials this time around were exactly what I talked about in my previous video. They felt fierce, they felt fast, and they felt deadly. I think the 2-3 big highlights for me have to be, obviously I'm going to mess up the names because I keep forgetting the actual names. The Crab Walker one where just shoot ink, that one felt good. The Reef Slider has to be one of my new favorite specials, and there's so many people who used it too. They actually paired it up with the arrow spray, which makes a lot of sense, but you see that thing in action where you hop on the Reef Slider, you go zoom, boom, big explosion, Akira style. That was sick. I gotta say though, my personal favorite, the one I used a lot, was the Killer Whale 5.1. That's the one that has the 5 little speakers spawn right behind you and actually just shoot out the little mini whales. And get this, I didn't realize this until I actually played the demo, but those speakers track on to your enemies. I just thought you could just fire them willy-nilly and they just shoot everywhere, but they actually track someone and they follow them. It's like an enhanced version of the Tenta missiles without being too annoying. So I think I'm definitely going to use that one a lot when Splatoon 3 comes out. Of course, the weapons are just one thing, but the maps and the music. Okay, I could talk a whole other video about Splatoon music, which I might do once Splatoon 3 is out. But this time around, the music for the Splatfest, or music for Splatfest in general, are just fantastic. But for 3, oh my god. Obviously they're not named just yet, or at least not to my knowledge, but I know one of my favorites has to be like the Battle Music 1 that has, you can hear Fry, Shiver, and even Big Man on it too. I just think their combination of like vocals and just their style it's amazing. I can't really find words to describe it too well, but I'm probably playing a little snippet of it right now in this video. You can hear the different ranges of the characters and like how just more dynamic it feels, especially for a Splatfest, and especially in a game setting that is more chaotic, more fierce, more like, hey, we got fight to win this time around. And I think that works very well when you have good music to add in for a much better experience. Going back to the stages, of course, we had a couple new ones like Eel Tail Alleyway. We had the return of like Mahi Mahi Resort, which I gotta say about that, the stage itself did feel very reduced, I should say, in terms of its size. A lot of things felt more cramped in that stage, and because of that, you have people, or you have your opponents and yourself like in smaller sections of the map just fighting, and one person has to win at that point. So it's very close combat oriented for that stage. So if you have like a weapon like the Hydra Splatling, I know a lot of people use that on that stage, and if like you're just firing ink like non-stop, there's no way anyone's gonna try to flank you at that point, because they're just gonna get mowed down by that Splatling. But the stages themselves were good. Scorch Gorge, a really good one in my opinion too. I'm excited to see how much more of a variety they'll add as well. It had like a preset kind of stage rotation format. One other side effect I will mention now, but I'll get to later. The fact that, what was it? The stage they chose for the Tricolor Turf for, Sturgeon Shipyard, which not a very good map, especially for a new mode like that. I get it that that's the one they teased back in the Direct when they revealed Tricolor Turf War for the first time, but more on that later. I just gotta say that wasn't the ideal stage to do that kind of mode. But besides that, all the other stages that they had, the music that were incorporated in those stages, just made each turf battle felt so much cooler, especially when you got a 10 times battle, 100 times, and even, I didn't get it, but I'm sure a lot of you guys did if you played the demo, the 333 times battles. Just when you incorporate like that level of pressure, but with great music and great like leveling format and good weapons and good specials, I think that is the definitive Splatoon experience. And what a thought that Splatoon 3 is the one to capitalize on all of that stuff that makes Turf War modes really good. A quick little side note here too, the quality of life changes that they added, like joining your friends in the lobby before you play, is something that we've needed for the longest time, especially if you played Splatoon 2 or Splatoon 1. You know how hard it is to try to join a friend when they're online playing, just regular Turf War. You have to wait for the battle to finish, then you have to get in a queue, and then that spot isn't even guaranteed at that point. And they still have that option in Splatoon 3, but if you want to play with your friends on the same team, you can do that in the lobby right away. No hassle, no nothing. You can even set up lobby codes for that too if you really want specific people in, or you just want to have like a limited amount of people join you, which is something that we've needed for the longest time, and I'm glad we have it in Splatoon 3. And I think that's also what made the Splatfest that much more enjoyable, is playing it with when your friends are on the same team, obviously. It's that much more chaotic to try to, rally everyone together, especially for Tricolor. But those are one of the quality of life updates that we've needed. Obviously, there's a lot more out there too. Like, I know it's a kind of like a little one, but the weapon categorization, where they have, when you're trying to sort out through your weapons which one to choose, they have them by type instead of just all jumbled on the same screen, which looks really good. So I'm glad they added that as well. It's going to be very useful when you buy a lot of weapons and clothes and things like that. So good on you, thank you, Nintendo. Can we give them a round of applause? Good shit. And real quick as well, I gotta say the new idols, I probably didn't mention earlier too, but Deep Cut, Shiver, Fry, Big Man, what a great trio. What a great vocal range that they all have. Really, really good dynamic. I love watching their news segments too, so I'm excited to see how much more of a character they'll flush out in them too. So I love the designs too. Obviously, Big Man, Big Man, Big Man, Big Man. I mentioned that I talked with a few of my friends as well as the N10 members on what they thought of the game, and unsurprisingly / surprisingly, they had a lot of different opinions on how they felt after playing Splatoon 3. I know one person in particular, shout out to Botox Media, he made a whole video talking about like how the Splatfest demo literally just kind of changed his mind on like if we needed a third Splatoon game or not. And he was all for it. He said after playing it, after experiencing it, after seeing it, what all the hype was about for this game in particular, he said, you know, I'm all for it at this point too. So I appreciate you, man. Thank you for making that video too. I know a lot of people are probably making similar videos out there too. But of course, not everyone is still on board with the idea of there being a third game. Actually, some people, after playing the world premiere, actually changed their minds in the other way too. They felt as if, wait a second, this literally is the same game. We don't need this thing. And so, you know, it could be wrong. Who knows? Everyone has their own opinion. But with a couple people I talked to as well, they felt that obviously the format itself is very similar. And of course, you could say that for all shooters. But Splatoon is the type of game where you don't think that they need a formula, but they're starting to show signs of one too. And obviously you could, you know, put that in regards to, like, you know, future updates and DLC that always come later on in Splatoon's lifespan. You could market for, you know, similar weapons, similar game modes, nothing being too new. Obviously there's some minor tweaks and changes there, but that only appeals to the one of like the very small demographics of the Splatoon fan base, which is of course the hardcore players, the huge fans, the guys who buy merch and who, you know, just love Splatoon that much. It's not very appealing to the casual market, which obviously Nintendo, it has a wide range of their audience, and so the casual market is something that they try to accommodate with all their games as much as possible. And sometimes that works, sometimes that doesn't. But in this case, I can kind of see it from their point of view too. This being like a very similar type style to Splatoon 2 and Splatoon 1, it might turn someone off from buying this game in its entirety. They'll be like, well, I already have Splatoon 2, why would I want to start new again? Why would I want to do something that I've already done? Which I guess in that case it does make sense, but in terms of how I saw it too, obviously I mentioned all the great stuff that they added, all the cool things that they threw into the whole mix, but judging from the fact that this game in its entirety is one, it could be, you know, considered the last of the trilogy, it could be considered this endpoint of this segment of Splatoon, but I think I'm going into this game seeing it as like, this is it, this is the grand finale, this is what it's all been leading up to, and that could be the same for the story mode, which I'm sure that'll be amazing. Sure, the same thing with the DLC, but just the overall experience of Splatoon 3 just looks to be a lot of fun. And hey, to the people out there who still haven't changed their minds or are still on the fence about it, hopefully this video can kind of be a testament, as well as all other videos out there talking about the very same thing, just to, you know, not even, you know, just try it. If you didn't get to experience, you know, the world premiere, then I would still suggest getting the game. And if you did experience the world premiere, I keep like messing up with the world premiere, whatever you want to call it, just tell me what you thought about it too in your entirety, if you're in your honest opinion, because everyone has their own experiences with the game, but mine is only a fraction of what other people could say too. But with that being said, like, everyone obviously, you know, they had an experience with the demo, no matter what it is. You can't go in, you can't come out of that and saying like, oh, I didn't feel anything of that. Obviously you had to feel something while playing the game too, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, so who knows. Now with me just praising the game, obviously there are some things that I picked up on here and there, which I'll try not to make this just like a list reading, but I actually wrote down some things that I kind of noticed or just stuff that didn't really resonate well with me, but I'll try not just to make this like an only list reading motion or segment of the video. So one of the first things too, then this goes into my discussion with Tricolor Turf War. I think that's one of the not good experiences I've had with the demo, and I'm sure a lot of you can relate, especially if you are on Team Scissors. Just to give you an idea, if you were on Team Scissors at that point, in the halfway point of the Turf War, our team was leading at that point. And because of that, for the Tricolor Turf Wars, once they were open, we couldn't choose to join in because obviously we were the leading team, so we didn't have an option. With that being said, what that means is when we played a regular match, there was a chance where we could just do a regular one, or we would be forced into a tricolor. And if you're on, you know, the trailing teams, you have the option to join a tricolor and just do tricolor matches. But because of that, it would drag, you know, Team Scissors into, you know, play the game that they weren't prepared for. They thought like, oh, you know, we'll just do a regular turf war. But if you're in a tricolor turf war, you have to kind of change up your strategy. And especially with a stage like Sturgeon Shipyard, that, you know, spawning into the middle of that stage in particular is not a good part if you've played Sturgeon Shipyard before in Splatoon 2. Especially because, you know, you only have that small section of like your spawn area where you can ink. Everyone else has, you know, both corners of the map of how it was designed. And so let's say, you know, you're fighting, you're inking your area. If you try to even like get in their turf, they'll just respawn and just fill it right back up, and you can't really even reach it. So at that point, your attention is still divided between both teams. You're worrying about the ultra signal that could go at any time and someone could hop in and grab it. You're worried about, you know, not having enough ink, especially if you're losing by like a small percentage. There's just a lot, it was a lot more complicated than Nintendo pointed it out to be, I think. And because of that, obviously I wasn't too thrilled. Playing, like, we played Tricolor at least like 7 times in a row at one point. We literally could not like get a regular match. It was just Tricolor, and we did win some of them, but the majority of them were losses, and that's probably as to why Team Scissors lost and Team Rock did win. Congratulations, Team Rock. Whatever. No, but I think just the way that they, you know, not format, the way that they handle Tricolor Turf War needs to be adjusted, especially for the next Splatfest. I know it's probably a Splatfest only mode, which is, I think, is a good thing because you don't have to deal with it constantly. But in terms of like what they can do for the next one, obviously Tricolor Turf War, one, there needs to be a good dedicated stage for it. There maybe even a newer stage for it too. Don't just use an older stage for it. And just a bunch of other smaller things. I'm sure you guys can agree too. There's some things about Tricolor that you would want changed differently. And so, hey, here's hoping Nintendo does it. I'm pretty sure they will. Obviously, they like to patch things here and there, so maybe Tricolor will be one of those things. Yeah, I mentioned spawning. Obviously, Ultra Signal respawn was pretty fast too, especially like when someone's about to get it and you stop them, then it respawns back right away. And even if someone does get it and they get the Sprinkler of Doom right away, another one will pop up like instantly, and so you really have to like stay focused in that middle area when you're getting showered with ink all over the place. So very chaotic. It is fun too, but it is very, very chaotic at its baseline. And yeah, it was just still very difficult to try to deal with 2 separate teams, because obviously, you know, you have, it was a 4-person team for the people who were leading. So Team Scissors had 4 people from our team. There are 2 people from each team too, so it wasn't a full 4-4-4, which I'm actually very thankful for, because that would have been a lot more worse. But when you're dealing with 2 people who have like a similar playstyle versus people who also have another playstyle, you have to very much, like I said, divvy up your attention. Like as soon as one like opponent from the blue team is gone, all of a sudden yellow comes in and you gotta stop yellow, but oh wait, blue's back. And then like you're constantly just like worrying about both sides while also trying to like navigate your own middle ground and try to keep your turf clean. So I'm thankful there was 4 of us, at least 4 of Team Scissors in the middle to try to handle all of that, but oh my gosh, even still, it's like a nightmare to try to do it all. It is sad to say that we probably lost because of Tricolor, but it was still fun. There was still a lot of moments I enjoyed, especially doing it on stream, playing with a bunch of my viewers and / friends. It was really cool to kind of experience this all for the first time too. So I'm really thankful for the experience. I'm really thankful that we got to play a demo like that. The other thing though I would say is I kind of wish it was revealed a bit earlier in like the marketing cycle of Splatoon, because obviously Splatoon, like I said, comes out, and Splatoon 3 comes out in like what, 8 days. So like having the Turf War or the world premiere kind of be that close is a good thing / a bad thing. Maybe something even just like a regular, like a global test fire like earlier in the year would have been nice too, but I mean, Nintendo knows what they're doing, I guess. Actually, who am I kidding? They still say September summer. Get them out of here. Nah. That ain't it. Of course, despite losing, I am very excited for what the future of Splatoon 3 holds, especially with all the cool updates and major DLC that they're going to bring in. I think we're in for a very special treat for these next 2-3 years, you could say. And of course, the demo itself, and like I said, all the promotion that we've seen so far is changing people's opinions on whether or not this game should exist. And that's a good thing. I think that acknowledging that this game should be a thing is a perfect first step if you've never played Splatoon, or if you've played a lot of it, or you're just thinking, we don't need a 3rd game, especially on the same console. I made a video talking exactly about what would happen in Splatoon 2 once Splatoon 3 comes out, but in that video I also mentioned that Splatoon 3, I feel like, needs to exist. It needs to be that good closer to the trilogy that we have right now. Of course, it'll be very bittersweet to see Splatoon 2 go, but more on that in another video. Speaking of the Splatfest, 3 teams means more diversity for the Splatfest themes, because up until this point, we've only had 2 teams. We've only had this versus that, but now we had this versus that versus that. So, not much to say at this point, but you never know what they could add in as the Splatfest theme. Rock, paper, scissors is a great way to start it off. It's a classic in my opinion. And so who knows how many more themes or how many more diverse, themes we could have for this Splatfest in Splatoon 3. I'm very excited for it too. Of course, with all these updates, quality of life changes, and even new experiences, I'm happy to say that this Splatoon game will be the greatest of the trilogy. And I hope you guys are excited for it as well. Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts are of Splatoon 3. What are you most excited for once the game comes out? Did you play the Splatfest? And just anything else Splatoon related. I love reading all the comments and seeing what people think about the game. I love seeing, you know, how people are excited for it, how people were kind of on the fence, but now they're definitely going to get the game. Same thing with the OLED, all that type of stuff. It's really cool to see the Splatoon community expanding like this more and more, and I'm excited to be a part of it. I'm glad that I'm making these videos, not just for your entertainment, but also just to be a bit of information for you guys to help learn more about the game too, and just why I love it so much too. So with that being said, of course, this is the end of the video. My name is KnightSky. We only got a couple more days till Splatoon 3. I'm just excited. I hope you are too. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Big man sweep. Woo!